Well, Braden, we have a quorum, so I think we might as well call
Okay.
call the roll, call to order, and then call the roll.
All right. So we have the roll here. Commissioner Silvas.
I'm here.
Commissioner Diana.
Here.
Commissioner Freeman.
I'm present.
All right. Commissioner Salam. Commissioner Jones are absent.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Braden, we have a quorum. So the first item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from our previous meeting, which was September 14th. And you received a copy of the unapproved minutes in your packet. So do we have a motion for approval of the minutes from September 14th?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes as written?
I'll call a roll for that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thanks.
Commissioner Silvas.
Aye.
Commissioner Diana.
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman. All right.
Thank you. So the minutes from September 14th are approved. Are there any additions to our agenda for this evening?
I do actually have one addition.
Okay.
And we can add it to new business.
All right.
The item I'll be adding is a winter shelter funding agreement between the city of Urbana and See You at Home. So I'll be discussing that in new business and then asking for a recommendation as well.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Braden. Any other additions to our agenda for this evening?
No, there are no other agendas.
Okay, all right, thank you. Is there any public input that arrived via email? There's no one here in person, but I wondered if there's any public input that was provided through the city office.
No, we have not received any public input.
Okay, thank you. So that takes us to the staff report, Braden.
Yes, let me get this pulled up here. All right, so I was mentioning earlier that Sheila's off today on a much deserved little break during Thanksgiving. So I'll be providing the report. Let me get that pulled up here. So the first thing is in your packet, you should see that you received a draft calendar for this upcoming, the next couple months. As we start the process of planning for our fiscal year 2022-2023 annual action plan. So that's just sort of an FYI for all of you. You can see those dates there. They might change just, as we start to plan things, but I just wanted to provide kind of a starting point for that. At our January meeting, we will be having a public hearing that will be for the annual action plan for the 2022-2023 annual action plan. And then I believe we'll be having another public hearing later on in the spring, but you can see all those dates there. We hope to have the annual action plan approved in late April, so we can submit it to HUD. I believe it's due in May. So you can kind of see that there. And, like I said, it might change, but that's just sort of where we are right now. It's hard to believe I just feel like we just finished the other one. So, so that's for your review there. And then, so in other grant management division activities, I think at the September meeting, we mentioned the youth services grant program that we were preparing. So we were able to launch that last week, I believe November 15th. We launched that grant program. So we've already started having agencies apply. The application deadline for agencies is December 17th. And so we already have, like I said, a couple agencies have already started applications. This past Friday, I held an application workshop just to help walk agencies through, how to apply, what the program looks like. And I included the the program documents in your packet as well. You should have those. To review. So just kind of a timeline for this grant program. As I said, December 17th is when the applications are due. We hope to have the awards announced. They'll need to go to City Council in January, so we hope to have those final awards announced on February 14th. As Sheila mentioned back in September when she presented this, this funding is just city funds and then the city's community development block grant funds. We used to have the consolidated social service funding with Cunningham Township, but they've, decided to do their own program this year. So that's just kind of the process. And then, like I said, we hope to have those grants announced on February 14th. And then we'll be starting the process all over again, back at the beginning to start the next round for fiscal year 2022-2023. So we'll be continuing this grant program next year. Just based on the guidance that you all provided and from what we've heard in the community, we think this is going to make a big impact in the community. So any questions about that process or the application? All right, we're excited, and I'm excited to see who applies. In January, I believe at the January meeting, we will also be bringing those applications for your review as well of what the agencies submit before it goes to City Council. And then lastly, I just wanted to provide a little update from the Fall Neighborhood Cleanup Day. This is back in September, so it feels like a lifetime ago, but we were excited to do this event again this year because last year we had to cancel it due to COVID. So it was a great event. It was very successful. We had the junk drop-off location in Urbana for residents to drop off items. And then we had the courtesy junk collection for seniors and individuals with disabilities. So we were able to serve 184 Urbana households during that event. So we think it went really well. And I think we are planning to do one in the spring, and then going forward, we'll probably stick to a spring schedule. So we're just excited to get back to that. And so, yeah, it went really well. And that is, I believe that's all I have for the staff report.
Thank you, Braden. Any questions or comments on the staff report? Hearing none. That was a good, complete report, Braden. Thank you. We'll move on to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business that comes before the commission tonight?
No, we do not have any unfinished business.
Okay. And that takes us to new business. And Braden, you said that you wanted to talk about the winter shelter funding agreement. And is there anything else under new business?
No, just this.
Okay.
Thank you. And this I apologize that we weren't able to include this in your packet, but I'll provide as much background as I can. The See You at Home, the shelter in Champaign, sent out a notice about a month ago that they were trying to start a temporary shelter, emergency shelter for the winter months. It's getting colder, and currently Champaign County does not have a space for a low barrier shelter for individuals to spend the night during the winter months. So this is a really critical gap in the community, and so they started approaching agencies and requesting funding for this project. Sheila and I determined that none of our HUD funds would necessarily be able to go to this, but the city did commit to spend $50,000 in city general funds for this project. And so, we've all been kind of trying to race and get this done as quickly as possible before things get really cold. So that's why it was a little bit last minute. We weren't able to get it out, to you all to review. But the funding agreement is for it's for just this 1 year, fiscal year 2021, 2022. The shelter, the plan is that See You at Home will operate 2 winter shelters, one for men and one for women, beginning in December and running through April. The shelters will be open 7:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. during the day for intakes and for services during the day, and then they will operate as overnight shelters as well. So the $50,000 that the city is committing will go toward operational expenses. So that includes maintenance, facility rental, security, fuel, equipment, insurance, utilities, food, furnishing, and other supplies that might be necessary. So that's the outline of the agreement. The options before you all tonight are to forward this to, let me get this pulled up so I don't misstate things. So the options before you tonight are to forward this agreement to City Council with a recommendation for approval, to forward the resolution to City Council with a recommendation for approval with suggested changes, or to provide further direction to staff. So I can take any questions you all might have about this. Again, this was really just the community coming together and trying to put some funding together, kind of in a time crunch, just to make sure that we have a shelter, for folks in the winter months. So are there any questions that you might have about that?
I think I read about this in the paper.
Yeah, it's
That
in the paper, yeah.
the key is the low barrier so that they're not excluding
Right.
anyone who needs shelter.
Right, and that was one of the reasons that, because the current shelter that they do operate, when they reopened during the summer, they just sort of changed their model and had some security concerns for their staff, so they wanted to just try to address that. But as a result, it kind of opened up this new gap for individuals who might struggle with drug or alcohol abuse, or things like that, might maybe have some mental challenges. So the idea of this new temporary low barrier winter shelter would be to provide a space for those individuals to stay. It is temporary, which I think the goal hopefully is that eventually we do have a year-round low barrier shelter in the community, but we think this is a really necessary first step in kind of getting that ball rolling. And again, we just need to do something before it gets too cold.
Hello, Ann. I
Yes.
so move number 1.
So, Bob, your motion is that we forward this to council with a recommendation for approval.
That's correct.
Okay, is there a second?
Could I ask, I had a question first on that. So I don't know if that's appropriate now or after.
We could have a motion and a second and then discussion.
Okay, in that case, I will second it.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there a discussion?
Yes, what are the location? I remember reading that and then I don't recall now. What are the locations for these 2 facilities?
So they have secured a location for the women's shelter. I believe they're partnering with a local church in Champaign that is providing space for the women over the winter. I believe they are in talks with securing a location for the men's shelter. And I do know they had some commitments, but I don't have that information for you. They wanted to make sure they were close enough to downtown Champaign to be able to provide walking distance, if people.
Right, yeah,
So they're both going to be in the downtown region, although I think the church is on Prospect. So, I think they were in talks with the Salvation Army that might have had some space. So they wanted to get the funding in line so they could start, hiring staff and, getting all of those issues taken care of. The plan for the shelter is that each of the men and the women's would have one trained security officer and then one individual who has some experience or training in sort of substance abuse issues or counseling or something like that, so that they are able to, to provide some assistance. So, but yes, both locations, they want to be in downtown Champaign, close enough to their current shelter on Washington, so that people could, walk back and forth if they need to.
Yeah, I mean, that was the gist of my question. I mean, even Prospect can be kind of a stretch when you get bad weather. Proximity to those shelters is pretty key. If people can't get there, they won't get there.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so their current shelter on Washington will function as the sort of centralized intake location. So when people present, they will do the intakes there and then get them to the other shelters.
They are going to be sure they have the capacity for moving people back and forth, where people don't have to get to their destination themselves, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Answers my question.
Is there any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. Do you want to take the roll on the vote, Braden?
Yes. And Commissioner Freeman moved, and then
Yeah.
Okay.
Chris second.
Okay. Commissioner Silvas.
Aye.
Commissioner Diana.
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you so much.
The ayes have it and the motion passes. So we'll forward that to City Council with the recommendation for approval.
Thank you. And that'll be going on the 6th of December to the Committee of the Whole.
Okay. Is there any other new business?
That concludes new business.
Okay, so that concludes our agenda and we are therefore adjourned.
All right.
Thank you.
We will be letting you know about our December meeting. I guess I should have said that before we concluded.
Yeah.
But yes, and so then I will.
The December meeting. When's the December meeting date?
The 28th.
Yeah, usually we don't have a meeting in December, but I know you'll have to.
We'll send out the notice.
Okay.
I think it's the week before, so we'll let everyone know.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and then I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Good. Everyone have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thank you.